Hello, everyone. Hi, and welcome to the podcast of How Banks Think. I'm here with JP from the Merchant Advisory Services. My name is Viktoria Soltesz, and I'm the founder and CEO of PFP Angels, which is an independent payment consultancy and banking advisory firm. And we try to put back the fun into payments. So that's what we are doing here with these podcasts. And we're going to talk about the current news and the latest developments and the new innovations in the payment industry in a very fun way, very informal way here with JP. So if you would like to add anything to the show, please send us your questions, your comments, maybe a funny story what happened to you through looking for merchant accounts or dealing with the banks. It's always good to have some real life stories in the show. So let's start, JP. Maybe you want to also introduce yourself, and then let's start into today's podcast. Let's discuss what's new on the payment market and in banking.
Well, I'm the founder and CEO of a little fintech called Merchant Advisory Services. So we are offering business owners premier merchant services. If they need to accept payments on a website or in person, or even ACH payments, we can help them do that. So I've been doing this for about 8 years. And so here we are.
Nice. So you've got real life cases and real life merchants, and you come across all the time their suffering and their problems and their issues when it comes to payments and obviously banking, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think now our company's kind of shifting, doing a lot more things with technology. So we do a lot of data mining and a lot of collection of, information and research, and we're running campaigns all the time. So we get to see the behavioral patterns of like users when they're on the internet. And
That's
so
super
we monitor
interesting.
that. So we get a lot of data, and I look at a lot of that. I look at a lot of the trends, and I get to see, some of the sales trends. Some of my business, um, um, some of my clients have businesses, and I could see the trends based on what consumers are doing. So that's interesting.
What do you see? Is there something that you can share with us? What are the consumers doing?
Well, I'll tell you, it's not necessarily about the consumers. What I end up seeing is that when I talk to the business owners a lot, they have like these serious pain points, and I'm sure everyone knows what they are, but at the heart of it all, we know that card payments are literally some of the highest expenses that business owners face when collecting their payments from customers. you know Using a
That's
credit card
right.
is convenient these days, let's face it, and there's an expense to that, right?
That's right. I had a little calculation. Actually, this is one of the examples I'm telling to my clients, which is let's consider that you're selling a thing, right? One thing, let's say it costs $100, right? So if you're selling the thing, you need to obviously add the GST or the VAT to it, right? So the thing, which is $100, it's going to be immediately 120 or 125, depends on which state or which country you are. For the added tax. And then the 3% can easily be 3.5 or 3.6%. And however, if you put this not in terms of your revenue, but in terms of your profit, let's say that you're working with a healthy 20% profit margin, right? So just to create the thing, it costs you $80 to create one thing, which is $100. So you've got a $20 profit margin on that. Considering that fee, that 3.6%, it's immediately almost 20% of a cost. So if you think about it, something is eating up your profit, almost 20%. And many merchants and many online merchants, online businesses, they just still not talk about that this is an issue and this is a problem when it comes to payment and banking. You need to plan for the fees. You need to understand what are those fees? And as you said, every little helps. So there has to be some kind of conversations being made on these fees, and educate those online businesses that, yeah, that's one thing that you're spending a lot of money on marketing or sales or whatnot. But payment and banking can be just as expensive if you think about it, right?
Well, I mean, what if you're a business owner and you don't know what to do?
Yeah,
And then let's
that's
just say you
usually the
go
case.
online and you go on the internet, on the web, and then you have all those ads, those sponsored ads that they're serving you. Try it, see what happens. Even when you search for a domain now, Squarespace comes up. They got an ad. So you're
Yeah.
capturing the customer before they need the payments, when they need their domain, and then they're serving that up later without the customer knowing some of all the fees that are involved. And they're just like, hey, it's convenient. It's already there. It's built in, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You don't even
And that's
check
the
for it.
problem. Yeah. Yeah. This is
One,
this is this is basically a massive problem as well, because I've got a lot of clients who are going to, trade shows, or they are Googling, or they just look for payment providers, posting it all
on
over the LinkedIn
Google.
that, hey, I
Yeah.
need a new merchant account, huh?
And then
And the
you get,
problem is that they don't realize that sales have to sell, right? That's the motivation of a salesperson, to get the contract signed, charge you the fees, and then start to get you onboarded. And those salespeople might not be financially motivated to give you an overview about all the opportunities on the market. What are the fees versus benefits and the terms and conditions? And maybe there is something else. Maybe there is, like, life over the card. There could be other payment methods. There could be different millions of ways of taking money from your clients. But you only get to talk to financially biased salespeople, and that's not always, the best for your business. So that's always something that you need to consider, how to see through those sales talk, and really make an informative decision about banking and payments and the available opportunities out there, so you can actually make a good decision. Because, fees are one thing, but when it comes to data security, the integration, the payment methods, the terms and conditions, the settlement times, the rolling reserve, like, there are so many things to consider. So it's not that easy that I say that, oh, Stripe is charging me whatever 3%, that I find someone who is charging me 2.5 and life is good. There could be a lot of hidden costs in the conversion rate, right? Out of 10 cards, how many go through? Maybe with payment provider A, 8 is going through. Maybe with payment provider B, 3 is going through. So all the marketing effort and energy and money that you spend on acquisition is going down the drain, because you can't just simply take the cards from your clients. So that's also something that you need to consider. So it's not always about the fees. It's about a myriad of different aspects and details that you need to consider before we say, okay, this partner is good enough to handle my money. And that's what I see, that a lot of people still don't see this as a problem. But hey, right, we are just human.
well, I'll tell you one pain point I see that business owners have after the sale happens, because, if you go talk to any business owner, most likely they've paid or purchased some kind of point of sale or gotten some account somewhere. We've all gotten one. A lot of the, issues that they might have after they've gotten, their account set up, is that they didn't get much training, or they weren't educated on all the things that they need to do to manage that account, or to keep it compliant, or to even train their staff on how to run a refund, or how to deal with a customer when they show up, if they need a refund, and then how to avoid, that customer eventually, trying to issue a chargeback. There's training involved with that sort of thing. If the business owner doesn't know, or if they're a small business owner, they don't know these things, they don't train their staff to know these things, that can happen.
Yeah. But then again, where would you get the training from, if you think about it? Because when you talk to your accountant, now you have an accountant, I'm just as much to
Well,
blame than
I mean,
anyone else.
think
We
about
don't know this,
think about
right?
the sales guy for X company. They're knocking on the door and they're like, "Hey, so and so, we're going to give you that point of sale, give you the merchant account with the payment, set you up." I walk in there, I talk to the guy. He's like, yeah, we got so-and-so payments. They got the machine. They got everything. It's great. They're like, yeah. And then, their employees are not trained adequately, and that sales guy just got them set up. Maybe they didn't do everything to make sure that that merchant gets all the proper training to know what to do afterwards. I am very big on that just because I have been doing this a long time, and I know the business owner. I actually care about what happens to them after I sell them. I don't just disappear on them. So if you're a sales guy, you're just working at the company for this month or this week or this year, you're not really worried about that merchant. You just got your money and you're gone. The big companies just leaving it up to the merchant to figure it out, get called, get support. It's probably frustrating, have issues. They got to go chat. It's all kind of nightmares. Then I see those pain points because then business owners and merchants look at me as the bad guy. Like I did that to them. I'm like, you're dealing with X company. You should probably contact us before you had gotten into a situation like that. And I have to help educate merchants out of bad situations most of the time.
That's right. But you don't know what you don't know, right?
That's the thing. How does a merchant know where to get good information when they're inundated with all those ads about, hey, get this rate? One merchant even told me, no, I want a fixed rate, like it was a mortgage. I was like, would you want 7%? I told him, because it's not a fixed rate. You don't want that. I said, I get it. You want a flat fee. You don't want your price to change on you. I get that. But it's not a fixed rate, and don't get confused with a mortgage rate, because that's a lot higher. You definitely don't want to be paying that number. As we were saying the other day, at 7% as a mortgage, you add 3%. On top of that, that's 10% going out the window. Imagine if your landlord says, yeah, no, my mortgage went up, my rate went up by that much, and I've got to raise the rent enough to cover that. It's the person who's renting from that landlord whose mortgage went up is going to have to end up paying for that fee. So you can imagine that with your card processing fees, your labor, where's your profit out the window?
Yeah. But it affects everyone. I think it's really the key of how you are able to get the information which is not publicly available. And I think that this is going to be one of the most valuable skills out there in the future, because you need to go through all of those spam information about everything to be able to see what's relevant to you.
Yeah, you're right.
And this is one of those. You're here. You're still here. So
okay, that's fine. No, that's fine. I was just double checking something. So that's a good point. But I think it is public information. People just miss out on it. And that's one of the things maybe we could bring up. It's a good point. If you didn't notice, last weekend, there was a judge. My God, I think it was in the chief judge for the U.S. District of Court for the Eastern District in New York. She indicated on Thursday that she isn't satisfied with the agreement, and she's going to issue a written decision on the matter. And I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. If anybody knows, this is public information. And this is, who I'm talking about is Margot K. Brody. And she's the chief judge for the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District in New York. And apparently she's made it clear she's not okay with that settlement that they agreed on 3 months ago, and potentially is looking like it may have to go to trial because she's not okay with the settlement. And this was being litigated on behalf of all the merchants that accepted credit cards, especially Visa and MasterCard. And there was a settlement. We all know about that, right? So now that settlement is not as sure as everyone thought it was. She says, hey, I have to look at this and I don't agree with it. We're going to go to trial potentially. And you could look at it. I mean, there's probably not many articles about it, but it's out there.
And that's another thing is that you can have all the information, even on you can train yourself to be a doctor. Technically, all the information is out there, all the the videos, the textbooks, and everything. But it's very hard to filter out what's the relevant and what's not, and who is there to evaluate that your knowledge is good enough to be able to then practice, for example, in this case, medicine. And this is what we see here with payments as well, because you can only call yourself a financial advisor when you're having the relevant license to give financial advice. Everybody would be able to give financial advice. Hey, just invest here, there. But there's a reason it's restricted, because if people would just give unsolicited advice everywhere, people would just lose their money quicker than they can say, oops. And the society needs to be safeguarded from these kind of mishaps. And that's the reason that even though that there is a lot of information out there, there is a lot of knowledge out there, filtering out what's relevant and what not, filtering out that what information is sufficient enough for you to be able to then make a decision. That is the main question. And that is the reason that you are not making decisions on your health in a way that you shouldn't really make decisions on your own, on payments and banking, without having a professional help, because it's so easy to make a mistake, just as easy as you're making a mistake when you're self-diagnosing yourself using Google for your symptoms. So this still looks like a bit of a blur in people's mind, because it could be the same for marketing as well, right? A lot of people say that I can do that, I can draw a logo for myself, and that's good enough. Why would I pay for anyone to do the marketing plan and the marketing campaign for me? Yes, but if you're not using a professional, you might not have that much of a benefit as you could out of the invested time, effort, money, whatnot. So it's time to look at payments and banking in the same way, and it's time to put some certification in there to be able to certify whoever is giving you advice on how the money moves and how banks think and how international payments and transfers are working in the same way that you would get a certification as a licensed financial advisor or a licensed medical advisor in this way, because you are eventually handling or making decisions or giving opinion on someone else's most valuable asset, which is money.
I don't know.
Right?
I don't know about that. I think that there are certain job functions for that. So if you wanted to invest, you have to get a stockbroker or go to a financial advisor. Those people are licensed for that. I don't think for this industry. I don't think for this industry you need that.
Yeah.
Because the government already is putting in place regulations already to cap the limits. Apparently, this new law that they have after is going to cut the interchange transaction fee in half, because that is a lot. They're trying to get 22 cents on a debit card only, but that's still a lot for a business owner. That new Credit Card Competition Act might lower that, and that still hasn't yet been decided. So, and you have to think of a big business, they probably already have low fees, but they're stuck paying that interchange for debit cards at 22 cents. Is that, am I correct in saying that? Somebody want to correct me on that?
There are different interchange fees. I mean, not only in the US, but everywhere. In Europe, it gets even worse, right? Because country and area and debit or credit or company or private cards, whatnot, everything affects the fee. So that gets even more.
So
messy.
you don't. The person. We don't have to be regulated. I think the salesperson doesn't have to be regulated. I think we got to be trained properly to educate the business owner, so the business owner gets good information. But I think if you have those regulations and then you give the business owner the choice to choose what would you like,
I think not the sales people need to be regulated, but whoever is giving advice on your banking, payment methods, data security, integrations, or anything else in this way.
They just have to be morally, on the right side of the compass. If they're just a bad person, then it probably is not going to go in the way of benefit of the merchant.
Good luck of getting morally ethical decisions out of people who are not financially motivated to do so. And I'm just being very nice here, because usually human nature, unfortunately, it's not like
that's what gave this business a bad rap. I mean, I thought it was
Yeah.
bad I thought stockbrokers had it bad. When I got out of the stock market in 2008 after the financial crash, I thought that was bad. That's nothing
I mean, they are
compared to how they
regulated for
treat.
a reason, right? So that's the whole
Yeah,
point. I mean, you
but
need to regulate people, otherwise they are gonna they're gonna do whatever they want, right?
well, I mean, I don't know. My customers stay with me for a long time, so I make sure that we do right by them and we make sure that we treat them right. We help them, so
Yeah.
they kind of need us to protect them from some of those higher fees. And some people I know, some merchants like I know, they will say, "I don't want that interchange. I want the flat or fixed fee," he called it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's up to them to decide what's best for them. So if you want a flat fee, that's fine. I actually, offered it to him lower than what they were giving it to him, just if that's what he wanted.
Yeah.
But he chose that, and I guess for him, maybe that's what he wants.
It's easier to calculate with the certain set percentage, because then you don't have to worry about where the client is coming from, or they are using the whatever platinum card or the debit card or the credit card. They have much easier planning and budgeting than if they want to have the interchange fee, because the interchange fee changes all the time. So it's very hard to calculate with the profit. It's an administration nightmare. And on top of that, good luck to explain to your investors that how comes that your profit is fluctuating anything between whatever, 5% and 25%. So that could be also the reason.
But if you have I'll tell you this, if you have a client, if you ever get somebody or a client that understands, like I've discussed this with CFOs and people in the accounting departments, if they understand that, we all know that I would love to pay the wholesale rate for everything. If you knew you could get your groceries at the wholesale rate that the supermarket's paying for it, wouldn't you like that? Yeah, and then if you knew, hey, I'm just going to give the supermarket this X amount on top of that because they're getting the wholesale rate. I'm getting it at their price, but then I'm giving them this little percentage to keep the lights on, so I know that their employees are happy, so that way it's there when I need it. That's a very clear way to know what you're getting. And so I'll tell you, as a case study, I ran into a merchant that was like a long-term stay hotel. And they were, I was working for a different company, and this merchant was, allowing us to put in a bid to win their business. And they were doing a large amount of volume. And we actually won it because I came up with a very creative way of charging them. And that was to eliminate the swipe fee or transaction fee altogether and just charge them the basis points on top of interchange. And I explained to the CFO, I said, that's going to be a very clear way for you to know exactly how much you're paying. And I told the guys that at the company how to convince them to take a loss on the transaction fee because they didn't see the long-term benefit of it. But once the potential client was excited about it, that's when the company got excited about it. And then we ended up winning them because they were like, "Oh, that's great. We know we got to pay wholesale interchange. We love that. We get to see what that is. We know what that is, and then we know exactly what we're going to pay you."
Yeah.
And they were like, "That's great. We're not worried about how many swipes," because it was like a hotel, and who cares about 10 or 15 cents or 30 cents when they're doing
large amount of
you can imagine when a hotel's swiping your card, there's large amounts there, so nobody cares about what the swipe is. It's about the percentage. So that's what we were able to work out for them, and it worked out great for everyone.
Perfect. Yeah. But it was interesting because sorry. I also had a client, but they were actually an acquirer, and it was very interesting because they just evolved from being a payment service provider to an acquirer, and they wanted to make sure that obviously they are maximizing the profit. And the interesting thing is that they wanted to build a low risk base, which encountered a lot of supermarkets. I think they had some hairdressing salons, a lot of local businesses, and they did not charge any profit on those merchants, simply because if you have a large low risk volume solid base, then you can actually add some higher risk traffic to the case, and that's when you are charging a lot of premium on top of that. So for example, 99.9% of your clientele is absolutely low risk. They are like coffee places and restaurants and supermarkets when hardly anything can go wrong. There you don't earn anything, but on the 0.1%, which is like the highest risk of whatever gambling operation, is actually covering for the whole business. And in this way, you can undercut your competition on the low risk, and obviously you can make a lot of money on the high risk as well. So sometimes it's just luck that where you find yourself in a payment service provider, and how they are actually doing the pricing for you. So many times it's not necessarily about you and your business, what kind of fees that you get, but also what kind of payment provider that you come across, and what could be the pricing for that payment provider. I'm not saying it happens all the time, but this could be one of the reasons that there could be much more of a difference in prices in different payment providers as well. And if you don't know as a merchant, then you might think that, oh, I got offers from 4 different payment providers for, let's just say a random number, like 2% fees on cards, then that's my risk level, that's my fee. No, there could be still an opportunity to go lower or even higher in this case in fees based on the payment service provider that needs your specific traffic for their profit optimization exercise. So that's also something that you can see things from this perspective if you're a merchant.
Yeah. I would say though, what do you think about eBay? Because what you're saying is true. That means some of these software companies can have the leverage when they are facilitating a majority of the transactions, whether it's high risk, low risk. If they have the transaction volume, they can leverage things. So I was going to ask you, what do you think about this eBay?
Yeah, because I know that the MasterCard disappeared from eBay simply because eBay said that MasterCard is doing predatory charges or something like that. But there was a huge scandal of that. No, it was American Express. Yeah, that's right. So eBay
exactly.
dropped American Express.
They're going to drop American Express in August. Yeah, they're going to drop American
Express.
There you go.
August. Exactly.
But they're also going to add Venmo, which to me, I thought, all right, that makes sense because eBay used to own PayPal when they bought it from Elon Musk and, Peter Thiel and then when they were whatever. So it makes sense that now they're like, all right, we're going to use a PayPal product called Venmo because they probably have some loyalty there. But hey, it actually is being spun as if like, oh, we're going to go after the younger audience of people who are on Venmo, which I guess makes sense. They're dropping the higher fee person for the lower fee person, if you ask me.
Obviously, I would do the same. And to be honest with you, Venmo has a big benefit because if you're transferring money in between the ecosystem, and that's the biggest benefit of all these neobanks, that if I'm a member, Venmo is literally putting money from the left pocket to the right. So it does not cost them anything to execute the transaction when both party has a Venmo account, right? It's an internal transfer. So that's the biggest benefit, that they can actually exercise all these transactions without having any cost. And that's how they can keep their costs low. In the meantime, they can give a good customer service, because if I'm a young person, I've got Venmo, I'm not going to type in my 16-digit card number, right? Punching it all in, and then one number is off and then the whole payment gets rejected. This new generation needs something, including me, to be honest with you, even though I'm not part of this new generation. It's a stop and go, right?
Why don't we should do some research. You know what the generation's preferred method of payments is?
There was some kind of statistic on that, and the new generation does not really want to use the card, simply because when the card was introduced back at the 50s, I think 60s, the biggest benefit of the cards were that you had this chargeback function. So if I'm getting the blue shoe instead of the red, what I ordered, I have the power as a customer to claim back any money whenever I want, obviously. For a bit of a headache for the merchant, but this gave the opportunity for the mass adoption of the internet shopping, and that's what the cards were good for. And now we are still paying premium for all of those benefits, which are now considered as normal. And that's the reason that all these card transactions are getting out of the fashion, because now we've got the open banking, now we've got the Venmos, now we've got the wallets, now we've got alternative payment methods, which might not have this extra layer of security of the cards, but they have new innovations which could be just as good as the cards on a much lower fee. So I think that's what eBay wants to do with Venmo and dropping Amex. So that could be one of the reasons.
I think they just want, I think what happens is software companies, when they know they have a large enough volume, they can negotiate, I think, better fees because they're somewhat what we call like a payment facilitator. They get a lot of transactions and they can negotiate some leverage with their partner, whoever they're going to run payments through. That's just what they can do. I mean, that brings up a very important point. I just helped a merchant that had to deal with unfair chargebacks, which is what we call friendly fraud the other, and they now are being able to have the option to have ACH as well. So if a person runs a card over a certain amount, then they can now say, no, for that amount, we're going to use ACH. So there's no potential for a chargeback. So that's one of the things that we can do to help business owners over here. If you are suffering from chargebacks and you want to help eliminate that, we can help set you up with ACH. And that eliminates any potential for a customer to have a chargeback. And you can implement that for large amounts. Let's just say you're, some merchant that has to charge a large amount. You're an auto dealer, and after the person is paid, you may not want to take that payment on a card. You could say, hey, we're going to do that via ACH. It's quicker, faster, cheaper, and there's no potential for a chargeback after the merchant say, hey, you gave me a lemon, it didn't work. After you fixed it, I drove 1,000 miles and now it's broken again. They can't issue a chargeback after that. That merchant that used ACH doesn't have to deal with that disgruntled customer who just wants to use some poor excuse to penalize the merchant. Let's just say that.
Yeah, that's right.
With a chargeback, So I just help the business owner do
that. Well done. I mean that's supposed to be the job of every.
That was a severe pain point for them. This was a severe pain point for them because they sometimes have large charge amounts. And I said, okay, in those cases, tell people, hey, we have the contract, but we're going to do it via ACH, and that could eliminate those issues in the future. So, that's a huge thing. Chargeback is a huge thing for business owners, whether they know it or not.
That's true. Yeah, the whole industry is specializing in chargeback. There are these big companies who are doing nothing else but the chargeback because that's such a pain point for everyone.
So that's eBay saying, hey, we're not going to let American Express be the payment provider means there's no potential for somebody who used American Express to say, hey, I didn't like that sale. Give me my money back. They can have different policies now that they work with Venmo.
That's right. Yeah, and good luck for the Venmo clients to actually get a chargeback, huh? If you think about it.
They can change the terms of service, and there's going to be a thing that says, hey, you got to agree to our new terms of service, and you're going to agree to that. You're going to agree to that
exactly.
If you're using it as a service. If you're using eBay as a seller, you're going to agree with whatever those terms are because you're in there already. You're in their ecosystem. So I think that's one major step. Another thing is, I don't want to say this, but another big company, I'm not going to give them too much free advertising, but they added the ability to use Ethereum as a form of payment. If you added this extra layer of security for DNS sec, whatever, you can now Ethereum to accept payments.
Now, this is very dangerous. No one is really talking about it, but this is very, very dangerous because that's one thing that you've got a payment provider and take crypto. But as soon as that money is hitting the high street banks and the source of funds is coming to be traceable, that it's actually resulted from crypto, you are risking to get your whole bank account frozen. And this is not a joke because I had a client who was putting some money, some ridiculous like $500 on a crypto exchange, and he got like 50 extra. The rate went up, and he was really happy, and he wanted to cash out the 550. But that extra 50 triggered an enhanced due diligence because it was over $500, euros, whatnot. And then the traditional bank on the high street who was looking at that said that, okay, what are the source of funds? Crypto exchange. Wow, 550 euros coming from a crypto exchange. So they not only put him on a higher risk overall for his business, for his mortgage, for all the businesses that he's got an account with that bank. He paid so much more fees on bank fees in the upcoming year that sometimes just by being innovative and taking crypto payments because it's cool, yes, that's great. And you might reach out to an extra, 5 customers, whatnot. But what is the risk that it's posing on your overall banking and payment setup? you need to really think about it, and you need to think twice, because
Well,
as soon as you've got one crypto unfriendly bank, that's the end of you.
I mean,
So yeah.
there's nothing. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think there's probably overreaching, steps of the banks to try to like regulate all that. But if you're using crypto, I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. I think, but once you start sending it to like your bank, of course, you're going to have to pay taxes on it. And I think that's one of the things that people misunderstand is that with anything else, as long as you're going to send it
That's true.
as income to your bank, whether it's even an investment in stocks, for your house, you're putting a large amount of money, whether it's something you got from crypto, whatever, your bank is going to ask you to just, report that as taxable income. That's all. I think
Yeah.
that's legitimate if you're, disclosing it, which is what most people do when you have the, exchange account with wherever, Binance, Coinbase, wherever.
It's just that there are a lot of banks who's got a strict no crypto policy, and that's what you need to be afraid of. Because if your bank has a no crypto policy, you can declare whatever you want as long as the money is coming from a crypto exchange. It's gonna be blocking your account quicker than you can say oops. And that is the main problem, that you might go challenging and accept crypto and whatnot. But as soon as it hits the bank account that doesn't want crypto, then it's going to be yours.
Nowadays, you just have to actually be wary of what crypto exchange you're on, because any one of them could go down nowadays.
And that
if
too.
You got like an SBF or something, because people are doing all kinds of crazy things behind closed doors these days. I don't even want to talk about that because that's just negative. But that brings up another point. There were articles out there that say, are people ready for like pay by bank? They're calling it, pay by bank. It's like what they call. It's not ACH. Yeah. That's probably too complicated. Or call it a check. It's a check. It's really what it is. And they just sped it up because the Federal Reserve is now finally saying, we're going to make that ACH available now as payment methods because it's faster, quicker, and we can settle payments faster in real time.
Exactly. And that's very popular in Asia, for example. So in Asia, people usually don't use as much card as we do here in the West.
Are customers in Asia ready for using like paying with your bank instead of a card?
Yes. And it's very, very popular. As a matter of fact, it's also very popular in Germany and Netherlands. It's called So Forth or Ideal. It's similar to eBay when you're connecting your bank account to a front end layer, and then you're executing transaction through that. And now it got even regulated in the UK that every major bank, just to keep the competition alive, they have to provide open APIs for their systems. So whoever wants to develop a front-end layer on top of the UK high street banks, then they will be able to get the data and the transactions and everything with one touch of a button, and that keeps the competition alive in the UK. So this is a very, very common. And for example, India, one of the biggest payment methods is the UPI, which is a government-funded open banking system, which has nothing to do with cards. I'm sending money to you in the same way as I'm Venmoing some money to you. I'm bastardizing it, but more or less basically the same idea. You are connected to a system with your bank. I'm connected to the system with my bank. We can send each other bank transfers, easy, quick, immediate, and then the system actually grows itself.
Well, let's unpack that though. Look at me as a consumer, as an example. I want to pay somebody. Do I want to tap with my phone? Sure. Okay. I got my phone. Now it's like, all right, what are you going to use? Maybe the phone's got a wallet. Now you got to attach something in there. Do I want to attach a credit card or a bank debit card? So is it going to come right out, or can I pay somebody back later? There's the option in the wallet to put those types of cards. Now I might say, forget the debit card, forget the credit. Can I just attach my bank account and have it come all directly out the bank like that? Do I, as a customer or consumer, do I want that? Is that going to give me protection versus some other type of payment method?
It
I
is
don't know.
immediate. So definitely imagine when you're purchasing some things through this method, the merchant has the opportunity, since it's a massive cost saving for the merchant, to motivate you to use certain payment methods. So for example, they can tell you that if you're paying with BankWire for with this open banking or whatnot, I'm going to give you 5% discount. Hell yeah, I'm paying with that. Or it's much easier
Well,
for me than typing in all those details, because there are still a lot of people that even though that they are using a card, it's not attached to any wallet. So then I still need to get my card and then type in the number, because if the
oh,
merchant
okay.
doesn't have
That's true.
Google
But, all right.
wallet or Apple wallet, I still need to type in the 16-digit card number. Like, I'm
I'm,
mistyping one number and the whole
yeah.
thing gets frozen.
I'm thinking from like the standpoint of this. If I make a big purchase, let's just say I want to buy something cool, better than maybe, I want something more expensive than a skateboard, right? It's going to cost in the thousands of dollars. Maybe I don't want to do ACH. I'm going to use a card that's going to give me some protection, like the most protection, maybe like Amex, and they give you
If you
buyer protection.
can. If
And
you
then the
can,
merchant's
because
not
for
going to like
example,
that. The merchant's going to say, no, we want you to pay ACH. And I'm going to be like, no, I want to use my card. There's that tug of war between the customer who like me, who's going to want to get some protection, and make the merchant, hey, if you don't use Amex, why am I trying to even go there? Why would I want to spend my
yeah, but
money for you
sometimes
if you're
you
not
can't
going to give
even
me
use
that
the
protection?
account. The
Well,
thing is that many times that there is no limit, because for example in Europe, people's card is limited for €1,000 per pop. That means that anytime that I want to spend more than €1,000, I need to call my bank, go through that music, blam blam blam, let me transfer you to the customer, say,
yeah,
hey, can you
some
authorize it for 1 hour to open it, and then I can make more than €1,000 payment at one go with my card. Let me check the system. It is cumbersome, to say
what?
the least,
Yeah,
right?
so let me ask you, what does a merchant do in that case if you want to try to run a $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 transaction regularly all the time
They
with no
don't.
problem? Really?
They don't, because that's the problem, that immediately puts you in a higher risk category as a merchant. That is happening with jewelry traders, with luxury rentals, yacht or planes or whatnot. If you take one payment with a higher ticket volume, a one-off payment, then you are automatically considered as a high risk, because if you get one chargeback, even if it's just one piece of a little chargeback, it can be up to, let's say, $10,000
Yeah.
per chargeback, which is in a
No,
percentage-wise screw
it could
up
be a
my whole
small chargeback.
portfolio.
Yeah, no, you can get a couple of small chargebacks and you get on that high risk list.
Exactly.
You could be a
So
coffee
that's
shop
why
and you get
if you're,
sorry, go ahead.
yeah.
I was
No. So that's the
I was,
justification for having like restricted for one big purchase over like $1,000 on a credit or a debit card. So that's one
yeah.
of the reasons that usually people don't use for large spendings cards. That's all.
Well,
Even though that is got a protection.
what's an example of, like, maybe you have a corporate card, somebody's making a purchase for their business and they're spending the money on the company's corporate card. Now you've got a merchant and their vendors wanting to spend, a few $1,000s for that heavy equipment or something they're buying in bulk, maybe, and they have an invoice, purchase order, they're signing a contract for these things. I'm sure business owners still face the challenge when they have, well, I'm pretty sure, because I know business owners still face that challenge of, like, now the credit card company wants to make sure that large transaction is still valid, not fraudulent
Yeah.
in any way.
It is slightly different in Europe, because as soon as you have B2B, so you are selling, services or products to businesses, many times these are not granted to a traditional card-related merchant account, simply because then you are issuing an invoice. It's a business to business. The invoice is terms and conditions and the contract and whatnot. So in this case, many times I had a lot of clients who were asking me that, hey, I'm running a whatever big machinery business and I want to accept credit cards. And I was like, no, you don't. Why? Because you're issuing invoice anyway. And it's cheaper, easier, and better for you to get it instead of having that, card payments, which are limited to a certain amount.
Let's just say office furniture store instead. Let's just say a furniture store, or an equipment store. You go in there, some store, they're buying electronics, and the average thing somebody's buying is like, in the thousands of dollars, the average item. You get a big TV or something, that's what they sell. Or they sell the furniture, and like people buy that unit, and it's like, it's always in the thousands of dollars when they sell one. That's a It could be a regular merchant that doesn't want to get classified as high risk, that may deal with, they're going to deal with chargebacks, because somebody might not be happy with the thing they bought. That's a lot of money, because that happens, right?
Yeah.
Then they're going to get some kind of red flag with their merchant, because it's like, hey, why are you doing so many large transactions?
That's
right?
But I don't want to be a high risk. It doesn't mean that I can't be getting away with not being a high risk merchant, right? So the wishes and the real life reality can be different sometimes. So I did have some clients who are telling me that, oh, but we are selling, as you said, furniture or whatever, jewelry or anything. Look, there is nothing high risk in what we do. No, there is the ticket. That's exactly what makes you high risk.
Exactly.
And
also the method of the way, sorry to interrupt you, but the way they make the transaction and how much information they're collecting. Because if you're
no,
tapping,
exactly. And that's another.
They're collecting a lot more data on you than if you're calling in and giving your card number in the last 3 digits.
Exactly. And that's another thing, that if you are, at least in Europe, I know that we're over-regulated, but this is my reality. This is what I can tell you. If you want to buy a car, if you want to buy, a high-value jewelry, watch, or anything in that particular level, then the vendor needs to do a full due diligence on you anyway. They need to see what is the source of funds. And for example, if you say that I'm on a salary, how much? $2,000 per a month, give me your pay slip. How can you afford this $200,000 worth of Bentley, right? I cannot sell it to you. So that's one thing, that what can be sold online, but there is also triggering some kind of responsibility for the merchant, for the vendor to actually understand what is the source of funds, and is he capable to sell that unit of service or product to the person without doing a full due diligence and the source of funds on that person. So that also makes it questionable, because that's one thing that what happens in the US. But if I have a card which is registered outside of the US, maybe my card is from whatever, Utopia, right? And Utopia's regulator is so bad that they will not be able to filter out if I'm doing solid money laundering on the side. Then obviously every time that I'm swiping my Utopian credit card is getting into the international banking system, and your whatever HSBC or JP Morgan or whatever American bank is taking that money from my Utopian banking system. Poof, that is textbook money laundering. So that's also a very, very important question, that how much is the responsibility of the merchant who is not a financial institution to introduce funds in the international trade? And that's also what makes you high risk if you're selling something in large volume.
Definitely. I mean, cross-border payments are a big issue as well.
Yeah.
A lot of merchants have that issue, and then they end up just dealing locally, where they're like, hey, we're going to just set up a local company to help us deal with that, because cross-border payments is a nightmare. And I guess that's why some people like crypto, because there's no interference there. They can just move around with it easier.
Yeah. And that's the problem with it as well, because it moves around easier. So, whatever is regulator A restricts and regulator B allows, and crypto is just going through everything regardless of what is allowed and whatnot. And that's the biggest fear there. And I'm not saying that every crypto transaction is hiding something. I'm just saying that if there is an opportunity, there is an opportunist. And that's just human nature to see that regulation needs to be in place.
Yeah, well, I was going to say another big issue that I've found when doing research, and this is not something that comes when I'm talking to business owners. I just found this by online research, and it's called, I mentioned this the other day. It's actually Baymard Institute. You can look it up, Google it or whatever. They've been doing this research for almost like 10 years now, something maybe. And based on the data they collected, there's an average cart abandonment rate of 70%. All right. And that value is an average that's calculated based on 49 different studies containing statistics on e-commerce shopping cart abandonment. And then they have 49 different studies. Each one has different, results, but the average 70.19% abandonment rate. that means 7 out of 10 people. I know I do it. Go on Amazon, I put some things in there and I don't buy it. I leave it in there.
Mm-hmm.
Come back and delete it the next day.
And also it has a second layer to it, which is I'm abandoning it because I changed my mind. I don't like that skirt. But there is another one that I'm trying to pay you, but you're not taking my payment method and I can't pay you. So that is the frustrating thing, that you put all that money and advertisement and marketing expense to acquire me. And then I am there at the checkout and I can't pay you because you're rejecting my payment method, because you're not offering the chosen payment method, because I want to pay you with whatever wallet or Venmo, for example, and you don't take my money. That is the pain point, because the merchant must be responsible to be able to take the money from whoever wants to pay them. And sometimes this is the big problem, that that's the conversion rate that we talked about at the beginning of the podcast, that there is someone who is trying to pay you, and out of 10 cards, how many is actually going through? If it's 9, good. If it's 3, it's terrible. But how is even 9 is good, right? It's like 10%.
Man, no, the average is 3. 7 people are disappearing. And I can show you, if you want to share some stats, because, right now we're just talking, we can share some stats from Baymard Institute. I could share my screen there. The reasons for card abandonment during checkout from U.S. adults, there's 1,000 responses, 1,012 responses. 48% said the extra costs were too high, shipping, taxes, and fees.
But yeah, this is what we cannot really affect, right? Payment consultants and banking experts, like cost of shipping is none of my expertise. However, I can optimize. What I can see is that the website is crashing 17%, or there is not enough payment methods, 13%. Like, this is so easy to deal with. Like, shipping prices is one thing, but
that's easy to deal with. Meaning, if you could capture half of the people back, if you just gave them free shipping for the first time or something. Imagine you capture half the people back. If you say, I'll give you free shipping the first 1 or 2 times. After that, we give you whatever, Prime. You know how they do Prime. They give you the free shipping or give you low shipping, but then you pay for a little premium extra later to get it fast. That's fair. If you could solve that, get half of those people back, that's a good amount of money.
And I can see another one. I didn't trust the site with my credit card information. This is, again, so easy to so easy to handle, because all you need to do is either get an embedded payment method and get the PCI DSS compliance on your website, which is like you are able to handle secure information, or you just get an iframe whereby your payment method is embedded and integrated in your own website. There you go. I'm saving 25% of your 1/4 of your card abandonment. I mean, for this, you don't even need to give free shipping. Most probably, it takes 1 week to one developer to develop it. Done.
Well, there's also a few other things that you saw there. The site wanted me to create an account. That was 26. And then the other one was too long, complicated checkout process. Those are all 20. When you look at that, that's a good 1/4%. And I think it all just goes back to a quicker, seamless, frictionless checkout experience, like one-click checkout, where it's like, hey, no, I got my info not stored, but it's encrypted because there's that, but I have an account and it's me. I just click the button and you just charge whatever account I have in my wallet or whatever it is. One of the things that I love is that you go to a website, it pops up when you want to pay, and it says your Google Wallet or your Apple Wallet, pops up all those cards and they're covered except for the last 4. So it's like encrypted and no one knows, and you can just pay that way without having to enter all this information again. But not every website has that feature, and if they just did, you can capture another 25% of people who don't want to go through that process of re-entering their card information again or creating the account. Maybe you can just have that person, have their information stored just by some simple cookies. So when they visit back the site, it's like, hey, oh, that's you again. Do you want to pay? And then your wallet pops up the card that's stored in your phone, and it's done by encryption. There's no, problem there, but not all websites do that.
Yeah. That's right.
And then you could see other things, 21% because they couldn't see and calculate the total order cost up front.
That should be, to be honest with you, illegal, because that's one criteria from Visa and Mastercard, even, that you need to be always very clear on how much is going to be the charge. Like, this is just, in my opinion, is just being neglectful, because that's so easy to amend and stop playing with the hidden fees, like the shipping fees, for example, or not giving the total. That already tried to be regulated by the card schemes for all the good reasons, because I don't want to be charged some random number that I don't know how much I'm paying for. So yeah, this is a biggie, I know.
What about this one on the bottom? There weren't enough payment methods, 13%.
That's exactly what I said. I mean, it's so easy to amend, because
fix that.
Yeah,
you give
the
people
website.
more payment methods with free shipping, you capture back almost 60% of what you're losing. Yeah, and then make it easier with one click checkout. Then you can add another 20% to that. You're back.
And you know what's the sad part? For example, that 9%, the credit card was declined.
I'll give that. I'll take that. 10% of the people card declined. No big deal.
Yes, but the merchant is still paying for it.
Of course, but
you're paying for the rejected, you're paying for the not honored, you're paying for, you don't have enough, amount of money on it. You as a merchant still pay for it. And this is the sad part, because
that's I'm glad that you mentioned that. I'm glad you mentioned that, because there are some salespeople that don't give the merchant that ability to say, no, when there's a refund or something, we're not going to charge you for the transaction. They hit them every time, whether it's a authorization, refund, and those things can add up. But if you give the merchant back a refund and don't overcharge them for, transactions when they're just authorizations, sometimes you don't have to overcharge a person for a transaction when it's just authorizations. Something that can happen. Right. Merchants are getting hit double, a lot, and it could be a lot. 30 cents for the transaction, 30 cents for the refund, or the, whatever you're dealing with.
Everything. You mistype a number, poof, charge. Oh, you try again, poof, charge. Oh, decline,
it's on both ends.
Charge.
And some people I know with credit card companies, or the software companies, don't give the merchant back the refund on the fee. They keep that.
Yeah.
We here at Merchant Rather, we make sure that the merchant gets back their fee when they get the refund. That's like saying, you're giving the customer their funding back, but you still got to pay for the fee for that transaction, even though you had to refund it.
That's right.
Because it did happen, and you got to refund it again. It's like you can get charged both in and out on that, because you're still moving the money, as you may say.
Yeah. Exactly.
And for me as a sales guy, I want to say, there's a fee for that. You got to get charged if you want to refund somebody that money, and back and forth.
Yeah. And there is another massive charge that not many people consider. Once you have a merchant account, obviously you're not getting paid out for every single swipe, right? So you get settled in one bulk. Now, many times the merchant account comes with a settlement account, but many times it doesn't. But every time money moves, it triggers a cost and a risk. So if you are getting settled on a merchant account, which is a summary account for all your payment processing, and then you're sending that money out to another account, most often than not, you are still paying for it. And if there is an exchange difference, you have to pay for it. If there is any risk, obviously moving money from one bank to another, there is also on you. So many people don't even consider that the longer route the money takes, the smaller and smaller the amount gets, and the more and more risk you need to consider. So that's also something that that people need to realize that when they are planning the payments.
I have a question. How do you feel about this? How would you feel about if you were a business owner and when your card payments came in from customers from those swipes, if you could spend the money from your merchant account before you had to send it to your bank? Would that be helpful?
Do you think? Yeah, I think because the majority of the failure, mainly for startups, is the cash flow problem. So I have money, but not in my pocket. It's in still the the merchant account provider's pocket, which is yet to be settled at T+5 or whatnot. It is still coming. My customers didn't pay me, and that screws up your whole cash flow. And that is the main problem. So anything which can cover those amounts for you and puts money in your pocket, what belongs to you, but actually it can actually be in your pocket, that helps a lot to companies, and this is one of the main challenges that I can see.
Well, What if it had a card attached to it? So now if you're the business owner and now the money in the merchant account that just came in there today, what if I have to do something with that money by tomorrow and I don't want to wait for any settlement to go from the merchant account to the bank account for me to get it and spend it? I need it immediately. Maybe if you had a card and could spend it, that might be useful to some business owners, don't you think?
Yeah, definitely. It really needs to be considered that what is the fee which is related to that, because many times, merchant account providers are not the card issuers by business. They might do it on the side, and obviously they are asking an extra.
Imagine if what you spend on that card each day can then get paid back by those fees that you settled again the next day. Because each day, if you're a merchant, you're settling new money. So whatever you spend that day, it's only a portion. It's only, you're not spending it all, obviously, you're just spending a portion. So say I'm a restaurant owner and I sold X amount of tables last night. I made all that money, but it's still in the bank. Today, right now, 6 a.m., I got to go buy more. But the food money didn't get there yet. It's not 8 a.m. yet. The banks didn't open. So you got to buy the stuff. Where's that money coming from? It's still on its way. Imagine that. Imagine if you had a card that said, hey, last night it settled. You can use some of that. By the time the end of the next day comes, you could pay back whatever just used this morning, because you, at the end of the day, just did it again. And by that time, also by 8 a.m., whatever you did last night is also settled. So it's there to cover it. But there's a gap between when maybe I'm a business owner, restaurant guy, and it's 4 a.m. and I got to get my things, my stuff, your early morning bread delivery, whatever it is, your fish, your meat, your stuff early in the morning. You got to do something with your money early in the morning, I'm sure, to get your business started.
Yeah.
That way, if you have access to it and then if it pays itself off, that's a super huge benefit, because you don't need to then wait for that settlement time that you're saying.
That would be a dream, but the problem is that many times it triggers an extra license, because that's one thing that you're holding money on behalf of someone, and that's another whole story that you are lending money to someone. So those are two different level of licenses, and that's why not every payment provider is doing that. Well, that's the dream, yeah.
Hey, you could check out our website, because we're working with the company now to do that. So if there's any business owners that need that benefit, we can do that. There's basically a card for business owners by Visa. Called a Payments card. You could go check out our blog, and you can get approved for a credit line using your merchant account. And if you want to learn more, you can go check out our blog and get in contact with us. But sorry.
Great,
I just had to throw that in there.
No. That's definitely a good thing. I just see that, for example, in Europe, you need to have a different kind of license for that, because that's one thing that when you're handling money on behalf of your clients, that's
here they handle the card issuer. Just the card brand says, hey, you get the card.
Yes.
So I don't have, the bank handles that. Visa handles that. That's why Visa makes money. I don't mind getting a business card for business owners. It's not my personal, like if I'm a business owner right now, there's not many cards you can get for your business. You kind of have to get approved for a special one. And most likely if you're just starting your business, you don't have the credit yet for the business. So you've got to do it under your personal. That's usually the way it works in the United States now.
Yes.
But a lot of business owners need to get some credit, start under their business so they can get that process going. We offer something that does that. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that's an interesting way to
there are a lot of different little perks that business owners can use, and obviously make the operations more effective. But as you said, you don't know what you don't know, so you do need to at least be able to ask those questions. That is it available for me? Because I know it exists, I just need to make it mine. And many times business owners even just bleed out on that level when they even ask the question, because if you don't know this is even possible for you, you're not going to ask your payment provider to give you this option for you. And that's what I see a lot of time, that this could be a problem, because if I don't know that there is life over the cards and the bank wires, then I might not even ask those questions from my payment providers that, hey, what's your latest innovation? Hey, what is the new thing that you came up with half a year ago?
Yeah.
And if you don't ask, many times you don't know, right?
Yeah, it's a good thing, because that is something I did see in the news, is that, some brands, if you're big enough, can have your own type of card. And I don't mind having that in certain cases, but not every brand is big enough to do that. And then maybe they can have certain rewards programs where it's like, hey, if you do this, or you have auto pay set up, which is like
Yes.
certain things. You get certain cheaper benefits, which is what a lot
Yeah.
of, what do you call them? The wireless companies now, if you have a phone or data plan or whatever, they say, oh, you do an auto pay, get the lower thing. And that's basically pay with your bank and not the credit card. And it's like they're trying to encourage that by giving an incentive for that. So I've
Yeah.
done it. I'm a victim of that, but I could see how that might be a way for somebody to avoid paying the fees.
Yeah, and the
Lower
other
the
very
fee.
interesting thing is that there are alternative methods that we don't even think about, which is connected to not traditionally financial institutions. So, for example, one is the mobile payment, which is a big, big thing in Africa. Instead of paying with your bank account or with cards, because many people don't even have cards in Africa, obviously, they have the opportunity that they approach their mobile provider, that the money is being deducted from the next bill, or it could be basically part of that top up amount. So when I'm going to the village, topping up my account, I've got whatever 10 minutes on my card. That's the value of whatever $10. And then I am paying my electricity bill, or I'm sending money to my peer using that mobile company as the holder of the funds. And it's a very interesting thing because obviously the mobile company is not a financial institution. So technically they are holding the minutes, or they are having a prepayment on the top of cards that you are not using it yet. But this is very, very popular payment method in areas when people don't have access to banking facilities or the traditional payment methods. So that's also very interesting, that that could be also used in many times for businesses. So for example, when you have X Factor, right? Or you have America's Got Talent. Remember those times when you were voting with your mobile back in the 90s and the early 2000s? If you want to vote for JP that he's singing the best, vote on your mobile, and then you're
Oh,
being
like
charged on
text.
your
With
mobile
like a text,
provider.
right?
Exactly. But it's
SMS
still a
text.
form of a payment, right? And that is what I noticed, that many areas are taking advantage of these creative methods due to the lack of opportunity of the westernized card payments or bank wires. But this could be also a very, very interesting area that you can tap in. So, for example, when you're a merchant, you will be able to actually take money through the phone, through the payment provider who is now a mobile company, instead of the traditional banking means. And in my opinion, this is absolutely fascinating, that how you can send money voting on JP being the best singer in the America's Got Talent. That could be also a method for paying for certain products or services, and this is not really utilized, in my opinion, as much as it could be, because there are still a lot of interesting areas on this.
I think that's what makes Venmo successful, is that
Mm,
there's a social element to it.
yeah,
And so when you pay somebody, you can have it seen where you're like, hey, I paid that person, or you could share, split the bill, things like that.
yeah.
So when I went to a little art show, obviously the person putting the gallery together didn't put in the curator, didn't have a lot of money because she's doing this with the gallery. She wasn't sophisticated enough to spend a lot to have a big POS.
Mm.
She just used Venmo and had a little um, QR code where you could first download Venmo if you didn't have it, and then it had her pay code where you can then send it right to her, and that made it
All
easy
right.
for anybody who was there, who whether you had a card or didn't, you could just do that right there. And for her, that was the
Okay.
quickest, easiest. And then on top of that, it said, hey, I paid so and so from the art thing, and people were loving doing that, sharing some emoji about with the picture. For that was like good for that, for that environment. I thought, oh, that's cool. People are buying paintings and they're sharing that they bought it, the emoji, because that lets everybody know that they bought that picture and that they like the artist. Cool. I thought that was cool. There's like a
That is
social
brilliant,
element
because
for the buying.
yeah, because
Yeah.
her bank account is going to be blocked quicker than she can say anything, and this is a
That's the
message.
question I had when they got a $5,000 painting went out and a $2,000 painting went out.
My
I'm like, oh,
point.
wonder what Venmo says
Exactly.
about that.
Exactly, and that's what happened to me. Actually, it really happened here in Cyprus. That was a very unfortunate case of a sick child, or I don't remember what was the original trigger, but people started doing crowdfunding, and they started. We have the European version of Venmo. We call it Revolut here in Europe, but it's exactly the same idea. And they started to send money to the family. And a lot of people sent €1,000 and 1,500, obviously helping the cause. And then Revolut saw that individuals are sending large amount of payments, and obviously they blocked the account. And it took him ages to be able to unblock that account and prove that no, that was a crowdfunding, because accounting and tax does not recognize the expression gift. There is no gift. You either pay for someone to something, or and therefore you have to pay tax on that, or it's a charity donation, but then you have to be registered as a charity. I can't just actually start sending you money and declare it as a gift, and then you're not paying taxes on that. I mean, what an opportunity for money laundering and tax evasion, right? So this artist lady might be very clever for now, because those are microtransactions. So Venmo might actually spend more time and energy and effort to filter her out and block her account, and then, investigate where all this money came from. But as soon as she's hitting some kind of flow trigger,
I think she does something with like a nonprofit, and that they do it's just a nonprofit, and basically they kind of run it by splitting the profit with the artist. So artist is getting some money, then she's getting some money, and that helps them curate the event, pay for the rent at the gallery,
but
do whatever
in this
she
case,
needs. And it's on a very small budget, and she almost probably makes no money, because she only makes less than probably half of whatever people buy.
Yes, but in this case, she shouldn't be the one who is Venmoing the money, who is receiving it. It should be the charity, the licensed
that's a good question.
Charity. Exactly, because I'm sending you $100 today, JP. Tomorrow another $100. If I'm doing long enough, the tax office starts to ask you that who is this Viktoria sending money to you?
I was saying you're a good point, because that's what it was in my mind. I'm like, hey, somebody buys $100, not such a big deal, but a $5,000 painting goes out the door. One or two of those, somebody's going to start asking questions tomorrow when it comes to that, either at Venmo, the IRS. Something's going to trigger something. When that amount of money in that short amount of time, 1 or 2 days, if you're sending that much, they're going to be like, hey,
what's going on?
I thought about that. When somebody's going to buy a big painting and that comes through, she's going to definitely have to deal with that. And I wondered, I'm like, Venmo's okay with that? Sending a $5,000?
I mean, $20 for the half of the meal, yes, but on an ongoing level. And when all those strangers start to send you money, that's dangerous, and that's not okay. I mean, microtransactions are okay, but as long as these $5,000 pictures start to fly, that's when the danger happens, huh?
Well, hey, maybe I'll keep in touch with her. Wait till she sells some big paintings.
And then she goes down, and then you're going to save the day, right?
Hey, I bought a little small one. I didn't buy a big one. I bought a small one, and then I wanted to get a big one, but hey, I was like, now I'm in touch with the artist. Maybe I'll get a good deal from him.
But these are dangerous things, definitely, because obviously that's the whole point of the compliance, to filter out all those people who don't pay taxes on these kind of transactions.
What about Cash App? Have you heard about Cash App? How do you feel about that? What's your opinion on that? That research that came out about Cash App? Because
what was the research?
Google it. Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't going to bring it up, but Hindenburg Research did a company that's notorious for doing research on a company, then shorting their stock, meaning we're going to sell it short, and then we're going to bet that we think it's going to go down, and then we're going to publish the research that we found. Unbiased research, they call Hindenburg. So they did a report on Cash App on how it's being used for illicit purposes. And these are not alleged crimes. These are crimes that are being investigated. It's not like, oh, we don't think it's happening. It is, and it's being investigated. And at the end of the day, obviously, some big companies who have the money can afford to say, yeah, we'll lose some. All right, we're going to lose some. All right, we're in trouble. We get that, but we're going to just pay because we are getting away with a lot. They're getting away with it. That's what you're calling. Yeah. And the DOJ might be investigating a ton of their stuff, and they're like, fine, we'll just pay the penalty, or we'll pay to settle it, or whatever the deal is. I don't know what arrangements they have, but I'm sure we all seen somebody using Cash App for something not supposed to.
Mm-hmm. And that's exactly the danger, because the responsibility is on you if you're a financial institution for all the traffic that goes through you.
But I
So
have a question. How does Cash App get away with when you open an app and you open it, it only asks you for the phone number and your name? And I could put Donald Trump with a number that's just a burner number that's I just got a fake number that's like, oh, I'm just going to get it without, no, it's not attached to me. And so with a number and a name, you can get a Cash App account.
well,
And maybe
clearly
an
not.
email that doesn't have to be
Clearly,
verified.
they don't get away with it. I mean, obviously,
True.
you can only,
If somebody's getting, yes, they're being
they are
investigated.
going
They don't get
down
away
as
with
we
it. They're
speak,
being
right? So of
investigated.
course, yeah.
But
I mean, you can
it
get away
happens.
with it on Monday, but on Tuesday you're gonna go down. So that's it, right?
That's why I was going to ask you, how do you feel about that? Do you think they're going to, like, what is the penalty for a company like Square Cash App that lets pedophiles use that to get money if it happens?
It's to be honest with you, it's terrible. But that's what we saw in other crypto scandals as well. That crypto was being used and abused to fulfill all those kind of illegal orders, drug deals, human trafficking, whatnot. And then someone comes out and they get a little slap on the hand, and then oops, okay, well, you're gonna get like 4 weeks in prison, and then.
Well, can I ask a question? Do you want to let's talk about that? Let's compare the penalties, because you have Sam Bankman-Fried. I don't know if you feel like his penalty was heavy enough or severe enough. Then you
I don't have all the information that the judge has, so it would be very reckless to form an opinion on something that I don't have a full.
Whatever his penalties are, let's just say we both know that it was very clear that the judge caught him violating his probation. So just the fact that you were violating your probation and the judge caught you doesn't bode well for you when they're going to sentence you. And then he still got, to me, a very light sentence. And if you compare that to some of the other people who are super horrible, like Dread Pirate Roberts from the Silk Road, he gave him like life multiple times. I think he's serving like 3 times life or something. I don't know exactly how many, but he got life more than once. So he's not getting out this time. he got probably 2 more to go. And that's on the other end of the spectrum. That's severe, because he was doing the whole Bitcoin Silk Road thing and was evading authorities for a long time. They locked him under the prison. Sam Bankman-Fried got off flight, but he knew what he was doing.
Yeah, but that's the problem back around us, far from it. But if I start to form opinion on something which is not my area of expertise, it would be not that really fair, because then you're questioning something which is the basis of the system.
And Sam Bankman-Fried, I don't think his penalty fit the crime. He definitely violated in a major way, and they let him get off, I think, very easy.
I'm not questioning the judgment system, and yes, it's not perfect, but that's the best we could come up with. And until we've got an alternative, we can't even form an opinion about it.
I have another question. This is probably the difficult question that nobody wants to talk about, but like, how does everybody let someone go about doing that? How do you go about letting somebody like one Sam Bankman say, oh yeah, you're gonna hold $6 billion of these people's money, and no one is going to say you're certified to do anything, like even like an advisor or anything? You have no certification, nothing. You don't have a license with FINRA or anything. You just got a bank account under another name of a company that's being run by your girlfriend. Nobody asked any compliance. Nobody at any bank stopped anywhere and asked these questions, Victoria.
But that's another thing, that because if they do, then Big Brother is watching us, and my money, my rules, and the bank should not have any kind of questions, because I earned that money and I've got the right to spend it. There's no good answer. Yes, it has to be investigated and regulated, but no, you don't have right to check on my on my breakfast of like what I'm spending money on.
I just don't understand how somebody creates an app and says, hey, I'm going to have a crypto exchange. I'm going to hold these billions of dollars of people's money. And there's no FINRA, anybody that says, hey, no, you have to get regulated before you do all that, because you got to know the rules. And then the rules, by that knowing, is if I'm a stockbroker and I know them, you don't go mingle your money with the guy's money who you sent to invest his money. He send it to you. You have to hold it. And that's why they have a brokerage firm, and the broker holds it, and you're not the investor. You don't get that money in your personal bank account to go do what you want with it. The stockbroker, has a firm, and they hold it, and it has to be cleared, and it's like settlement. It's like a thing. That's why investment brokerages have that. And so their fiduciary duty is to hold that money, and they know that. How does some person start a software company, get a bank account, and nobody says, hey, you got to follow these compliance rules because you're holding $6 billion of someone else's money.
Listen, it's not
Nobody
new.
who invested in that company, not even anybody, just said, hey, hold on. Hey, hold on. His parents, who are lawyers, just say, hold on. You're holding all those people's money in your account. You're not following the rule. Nobody ever said that. You don't even. Somebody would have said, "Hey, hold on, bro. You don't even have a Series 7 registered license. Where's your hedge fund license to be a broker if you're doing that?" Anybody even asked him that? That's the thing I'm on. How long was he running and nobody even questioned that? I said, "Hey, how come you don't have the hedge fund? Hedge fund's got to be licensed to do that. Well, how come you're doing this with a Bitcoin exchange?"
Because there was no regulation on that, and that was exactly the problem of the banks. And I'm telling you something else, this is not new.
Not funny, actually.
This is the oldest trick in the book. If you are going to any kind of traditional, like art dealership, the perfect opportunity for money laundering. Just change the crypto with the painting. Poof, you've got a bank account. You can make international transactions. You can represent value in a thing which is not a cash, but it can be used as a cash, and it's not regulated as a cash. And then you can replace the artwork with the crypto with the voucher with the with anything. Even I can give me some candies and I create a money laundering operation out of using candies as a value of exchange, and then introduce it to the peers and then be able to move funds around it. There's always going to be criminals, and there's always going to be loophole, and there's always going to be lack of regulation because someone is so creative to come up with something. But obviously society cannot be everywhere, and that's why the new system is emphasizing that you as a merchant, you as a seller, you as the part of society have the responsibility to filter out all of those wrongdoings on your level. So it's not only on the banks now to filter out who is cheating tax and who is transferring money for illegal activities. This should be the responsibility for the whole society to recognize and filter out these kind of wrongdoings. And it might not be the system which has to be blamed, which is, again, I'm saying the system is far from perfect, but this is the best we could come up with. And as you can see, regulations are coming out on a daily because there are creative ways which are coming out on a daily of how to cheat the system. There are always going to be loopholes. There are always going to be regulation which is filling it up. But as long as we got innovation and technology, there's going to be more and more new windows of opportunity. People are taking advantage of it. That's going to get shut down. The regulation off to the new thing. So it's a cat and mouse game, and you can't really blame the system for not being effective enough when it's already over-regulated anyway. So it's a hard one. Huh?
That's true. I think here, at least in the United States, a lot of the burden falls on the card brands, Visa and MasterCard. Their antiquated system, it's slow. It has these loopholes that cause that. And so fighting fraud is a problem when you have these methods of payment that are outside the box. Using a card, it's not necessarily me or not. I could apply and do all these things, and I promote somebody to go, like in my case, try to use my identity to open up bank accounts to get a credit card. Just a nightmare. I can imagine what people are trying to go through to do things to get the card, to get away with doing something. Like the steps it takes to do that, to get away with using a card. I think ultimately it's just to get the card. I think it lies on the card brands. It's like that's the problem with credit cards. If it's attached to something that's more secure, that has some authentication that is directly related to you, a bank account, something that they know it's you because it's authenticated to you somehow. Now they know it's you, like your phone. When you put the fingerprint to unlock, when you want to tap to pay, they know it's you now. That's a good way of authentication. So that credit cards don't give you that. It's like anybody can take a card. Oh, we're trying to get the thing. We have the chip, and there's all these problems with that. Well, that's the opening of Pandora's box for fraud.
Yeah. Now wait a couple of years until AI gets there, when they can deepfake you, they can deepfake your voice, they can register your fingerprints from a million miles away, how you're tapping on the the pad.
I was going to say,
scary.
I was doing research on that. Some companies are using that artificial intelligence to try to identify fraudulent practices in cards. That's a good.
So both sides are using it, the good guys and the bad guys, and it's going to be, the fight for the elements.
I think there are some companies that are trying to use artificial intelligence to like help prevent fraud. There are some cases like that. I'm not going to mention it now. I'm going to get my facts, get the research, and I'll mention it maybe next time. But I know there's some companies that are trying to apply artificial intelligence to prevent high levels of fraud and to predict when, transactions could be fraudulent.
It was so funny. I had a client and he was dealing with graphic design, basically. So nothing major. And he reached out to me and we had a chat, and I was telling him that, listen, what we need, documents to open an account. We need to have like a proper passport copy and the utility bill. And, utility bill has to show that you're living in the country where the company is incorporated. So you make management and, executive decisions locally. So that's the substance of your company. And he was looking at me and he was like, you know that I'm a graphic designer, right? You just tell me what kind of utility bill you need and I create it. And I'm like, oh my God, that is so true. Because you're not going to call the electricity authority. You're not going to call the water board and say that, hey, JP just submitted a utility bill back in March that he paid $100 for his electricity, right? It's like data protection. So they can't justify that you are even a customer, right? Let alone how much you paid, or is the utility bill valid? So there are certain efforts which are there just to be there, just to make your life a bit harder, but not impossible, because creating a utility bill, or God forbid, even like creating some kind of passport, it is so easy nowadays. And with the artificial intelligence, it's going to be so easy to defake everything and create fraud and personalize anyone and take the identity. So yes, there is a lot of proof on this on the good side, but in the same time, the criminals are evolving too, right?
Of course. I think it's just going to take very evolved humans to be able to decipher from a non-human. You're going to have to be very evolved, and you're going to have to be able to know when that is a non-human. That's
right.
A serious thing.
And now compliance officers are still doing a lot of manual work, because I was working with compliance officers, and many times there's having something. Obviously there are tools which is filtering out that the person is sanctioned or on the list or whatnot, that the passport copy is valid, but there are a lot of decisions which is still made on a personal level. So this passport copy is blurry, says Maria, but then Maria is on a holiday, and I don't know, Elizabeth is taking over for that week on that department, and Elizabeth is looking at it and she says, oh, that's absolutely fine for me. So then you can still see that there are small differences which are not that clearly established in a way that, yes, you can accept that, no, you have to decline that. And there is still a lot of personal element and subjective decisions which are made over even in the financial sphere, and that is, in my opinion, going to be better with artificial intelligence, because at least we can appoint one centralized decision making kind of unit which is non-biased and consistent across all decisions for all the involved parties, and that's what I see, that there could be a bit of better decisions made on compliance because of this. And so we just have to wait and see, I guess. So this is what the future is going to tell us.
I was going to say, that's what I'm waiting to see, is what the future holds, where all this is going to go, because now it's completely uncertain with everybody. You have a judge that's saying, hey, we're not going to honor that settlement you guys made 3 months ago. We're going to go try to figure it out and make you go to court.
That's right.
Ends everything, because that whole thing is about just lowering the rate. And if they lose, the credit card companies are like, hey, we're keeping that money. We don't have to pay you back. So it's going to be interesting to see how all this plays out.
Yeah. And it's very interesting that what's going to happen with all these high risk clients, because there are genuinely decent businesses just happen to work in a high risk or a more complex environment. And that's why they have serious difficulty to be accepted by the traditional banks or payment providers. So it is hard for them already. But when it comes with more scrutiny and less acceptance, then I will be very, very curious to see that what could be the opportunity for payment processing for all those companies. And when there is a need, there is a way. So there is going to be someone who is providing those services for those challenging clients, and that could be interesting to see that how does that evolve. And again, you just have to wait and see, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, I think it has to do with education, getting financial literacy, knowing your options when it comes to financial products or the different types of accounts you can get, whether it's for your personal life or your business, and how they're going to affect you. It's a thing, in the housing industry, or when you're buying a house and you got to know the mortgage rates, you got to know those things. That's a thing for people like, I got to know the rate. So I think that same thing applies if you're just going to get your own bank account or your savings or a CD, or you're going to get a business account or a merchant account or a credit card or whatever. Those same principles should apply when you try to get the best rate and you try to get the best deal and you try to negotiate with whoever it is to give you a good deal. And that doesn't always translate to credit cards or banks. You just sign up and get the one they give you.
Yeah. And there are so many aspects to consider. So price is important, but there are so many aspects which can affect the price, but not that directly as the number on the contract. And that's what people really need, because nowadays, everybody's an entrepreneur. Everybody starts their side hustle, and they will need payment providers because they are selling things online. So unless you understand what is the risk and what is the real fee and the real damage in those payment providers or banking rails or the real benefits for you, this will still be the major burden for all of these newly found startup businesses and side hustles, and that's why it's very important that people should be at least understanding the basics of the finances, understanding the basics of how banks work. What is the central bank? Why is asking for my passport copy? Because if they are not clear on those terms, it's going to be a pain to manage a business and handle banking relationships on a daily when you don't really understand who are you dealing with. So that's where I see the major problem. It's the same thing that you're trying to run a fintech company, but you have no clue about tech. Let's develop an app. Okay. Like, how? I said, and many times I see with these traditional banks that, okay, guys, now we are fintech. Now we've got the legacy system, which was made in the 80s. It still has like 3 colors, the magenta, the turquoise, and, the black, back at the Commodore times, right? And the whole system is still running on these DOS base. And then the bank manager says that, guys, we are like, updating our system. Now we've got an app, and good luck for those poor developers to maintain that legacy system matched with these application systems. And they can't. Just because you say that you're a fintech company, it doesn't mean that you really understand that who are you dealing with, right? Who is your competition? Yeah. And that's what I see with online merchants as well. They say that, yes, I am the best, whatever. Yeah, but your bank is only offering you like check withdrawal on cash or those kind of things. So if you don't have the relevant partner, how can you even dare to go against your competition? You can have the best product on the market with the best marketing and the best customer base. If they can't pay you, you're not going to make it. And at least we need to talk about it because there are so many podcasts out there about leadership and agile and marketing and being out there, an influencer. No one is talking about banking and payments. And this is a big problem. Big problem.
Well, let me ask you, what do you think about this? Because we've all seen how big companies, brands, they have what is called like an ad agency, right? What if it was like, you have to have a payments agency that helps you navigate that same, e-commerce payments landscape the way you have to navigate the advertising landscape of what media and ads you're going to buy and where and when, if you approach that, advertising strategy and you that same mentality, if you use that same mentality with your advertising strategy, you with payments, then obviously you might need a payments advertising agent, a payments agency to help you navigate it the way you would an ad agency. What do you think about that?
Thank you. My point exactly. That's exactly what I'm doing, right? Because all of these questions are ending up on the shoulders of the accountant. I'm an accountant. I was replying to those questions, or the lawyer. Bless them. They are also not trained on these kind of questions, like which one is the best bank account. Oh, I think no. This is not what you think. It's like, what are your experience with banking and online payments and the hidden fees and the risks and everything. So as long as you don't recognize that banking and payment is a separate industry with separate specific knowledge and very unique kind of approach, which is merging the accounting and the compliance and the technology and the integration and the data security and risk and everything in between, as long as you don't acknowledge that this is a standalone department of a business and vital part of the business, you will never be able to realize that how valuable this could be. And then stop bothering your accountant with technical integration questions, and stop bothering your lawyer with the I don't know questions about how to set up a new payment rails, because they are just not trained on that. This is a different profession. It's the same way as you're going to I don't know, a dentist when you have a pain in your foot, right? It's a different department. Yes, it belongs to the body, so eventually it might affect, different departments in the same, in a related way, but that eventually you need to have a specific knowledge around banking and payments and fintech and innovation and risk, which is specialized on these areas. And you need to recognize that the earlier you start to plan, the better it is, because then you can avoid a lot of problems which will hit you sooner or later. It's not a question of if my bank is going to freeze the account or if I will lose some money on payment processing. No, it's a question of when, and are you ready for that, and do you have a plan B when it actually happens to you? So that's what I can say, that this is what we are doing, educating people about the need of asking those questions. And that's why I said to you at the beginning of the podcast that it is a standalone industry. And in my opinion, you should have some kind of at least basic qualification when you're touching or giving advice on any kind of funds, on any business, let alone their own funds, right? How to set up the payment rails, because there are a lot of traps out there, and nowadays with all these adverts, as you said at the beginning, it is a bit of a minefield, and you do need to make informative decisions when it comes to your most valuable asset, which is eventually your money. So
exactly, that's why here we're going to be starting a payments consultancy, so that way we can help business owners, startups, enterprise level businesses create their systems that help streamline their payments, from top to bottom, the complete omni-channel experience that gives the customers, an seamless, frictionless checkout experience without all the issues that we were talking about that people have with cart abandonment, So yeah.
That definitely. And I think this is a really, really good time as well, because as I said, everybody has their own side hustle or business, or everybody is now an entrepreneur. You do need to understand the risks around your money and banking and payments, and not just from the investment perspective, because that's a whole different industry on its own. From the way of how the money moves, you need to understand how banks think, and overall who is handling your funds, and how to do your own due diligence to make the most effective business decisions when it comes to your payment partners. So that's what I see.
I think it has to do with the most important part of money, and that's when it arrives. Nobody really cares about the money. It's when it arrives. That's the whole idea. And it's like, if you give me money today, it's worth a lot more than if I got to wait a year for it. And if you even probably surveyed a bunch of people, I'm sure you said, hey, I'll give you more a year from now, or you take less now. I guarantee you a lot of people say, I'll take less now because it's here with me now.
Yeah. And there are so many other aspects as well. I mean, timing is one, definitely. Fee is one, definitely. But there are so many aspects that we haven't even mentioned. The risk, right? What is the risk of releasing some of your volume to one of the payment partners, like integration, onboarding? Do you have the development capability and workforce to be able to connect your CRM system with your new provider? Because if not, they can have the best fees and the best terms, you won't be able to use it, right? Or there could be so many other aspects of like, what other businesses do you have in the group? Because if everything in the group is nice and vanilla and great, but at one point you start to sell something which is high risk, that can affect the whole group. How to diversify the traffic, how not to keep 20 million on one bank account, right? Because those are all these little things that you need to talk about, right?
What I found at the end, the root cause, maybe nobody wants to talk about it, but when you have archaic systems that are expensive to move money and it costs a lot to move the money, then the fee or the transaction to the business owner, whoever's got that account, it's going to end up being a lot. So if there's like a cheaper way and there's technology and you're not using it and you're going to say, hey, we're going to charge you a lot, but we're not going to do the cheaper, faster method, or we're not going to allow you to use or encourage customers to use the cheaper, faster method. We want you to use the old method that costs a lot so we can make a lot of money. Maybe the business owners might be like, yeah, no, we don't want that anymore. We're going to find that new thing that makes it cheaper for us.
Exactly.
That's a trend that's probably happening with the crypto. And I could see why. If you're using an archaic system, you don't update it to make it cheaper for me to move the money, then why would I use that system anymore? I'm going to, hop ship to the place that's cheaper and, maybe at this point, some, convenience for me to move the money. But hey, that's just, I think, a balance that we're going to have to find. Because if you can use technology to make it cheaper, then the price should go down a little bit. And there shouldn't be a big fight to say, hey, let's lower the fee or lower the rate a little bit. And let's not charge the merchants 3 or 4%.
Yeah. And it comes back to, delivering value to the customers, because you're dealing with the technology and the integrations and real-time live cases. But with this new department of the independent professional payment and banking advice and education, this is where I can see that huge benefit for everyone that with this capability, then we can actually help those merchants, even if
the big brands have ecosystems that need help. We all see that. That survey could tell you that. There's ecosystems. If you go to them, and here's one example, they're using artificial intelligence on Michael Kors' website. I believe MasterCard has something called whatever, and that's helping the shopper helping improve the shopper experience. And I can see how that's like, okay, cool. That's a good way to improve, maybe lowering our abandoned, our abandoned cart rate is by giving people a better experience. But not all websites are big like Michael Kors can afford to do that.
Exactly. But it comes down to innovation in tech, because I think that there's going to be so many innovations that we don't even know that we are going to talk about even a year, right? So a year ago, I didn't know that I will be here talking to you about these kind of problems. So with the speed of how everything is evolving, the best you can have is your curiosity and your eagerness to learn and to be open to new things. Because you might hear something which could be a complete ludicrous in January, but by the time you are using in March, you're going to start earning with that. And in May, there's going to be, well acknowledged industry-wise. So you snooze, you lose. You need to consider all those aspects of your business that you haven't even thought about. You didn't even know that it exists, right? And this is not only the AI, but this payment and banking, because that is also very vital.
Let me ask you something. How do you get these enterprise level people at those companies to even see that? Because a lot of them think that they know everything, and that if they uncover the fact that, hey, they didn't know that, what do you think their boss is going to say if they find out, oh my God, you were letting us get overcharged for 10 years? You think they're going to get a promotion after that when somebody finds out that? They don't want that to get out.
Yeah, just because it's bad and you're hiding it, it's, sooner or later it's going to come out, right?
Oh, well, it can go either way. Well, that's where they might say, hey, I'm going to try to keep this that way for as long as I can, because whatever. And if it does come out, then hey, it could go either way. Maybe you get a promotion because you found it and fixed it, but maybe it won't look so good on you that you weren't aware of it. And that can go either way. And big companies have infrastructure already. That's hard to say, yeah, we have to switch everything if we did all that. There's a lot of things that come with infrastructure if you want to switch payments, I think. It's not easy for a company that has a big payments infrastructure to switch.
Listen, it depends, because if it costs me $10,000 and 1 month of a development effort, but I'm sparing $1 million on the side, then hell yeah, I'm going to do it, right? So you always need to consider that there is no good decision which is good for everyone. There are case by case options. There are different payment providers for a reason, right? Because one payment provider might be absolutely superb on this payment methods in this area, but they won't be able to cater for a different country with different clientele. There are a lot of aspects that you need to consider, like cultural differences, different currencies, risk around your money. How are they holding your funds? What are the terms of the settlement? So everything goes back to your individual circumstances. But what you need to learn is what questions to ask and how to get, a second opinion as well. Like you're going to the doctor, right? It hurts here. I think it's this. Let's go to another doctor. It might be that. That's an interesting one. Let's go somewhere else. Eventually, this is your responsibility. Like your body is your responsibility. Your business is your responsibility. That who do you trust it with? And who can advise you to not only to fix the problem, but to make the relevant steps to avoid even the opportunity for failure. And this is your responsibility as a payment person, as a CFO, or even a business owner.
That's great. I probably can't say it enough, but in what I say in a lot of our messaging is that we advocate for merchants, to make sure that they don't get the short end of the stick, kind of like you would have a lawyer advocating for you in court, or some, other person to help protect you from something that you don't know. You go into court, you got to deal with the judge, and you don't know what the law means, or you don't know what the ruling means. That's what your lawyer's there for. If you have a, payments consultant, and that's kind of what I like to use in our language, is that I tell people, we're going to advocate for you when it comes to dealing with the bank or whoever it is with your merchant account, to make sure that you don't get the short end of the stick, or that they know what they're getting, what they're not getting, what their rights are, what they're liable for, what the compliance rules are. That's one major thing I can tell you. A lot of salespeople, they go in, they sell the merchant, they don't tell them you got to do PCI compliance within the first 90 days, you're going to get penalized. And if you don't do it at the end of the year, it's going to be more. And then if something happens, you're going to be, it could hurt your business. So that's something I do, is I train my clients on PCI compliance within the first 90 days. That's not something they have to deal with ever. And once they know how to do that, they just do it every year, because they're like, oh, okay, it's just a simple thing for me to do. And now they know, now they do it. But that's, something that doesn't always happen. So you have some sales guy working for some big company, and he just wants to get the money, and he doesn't care. He's like, yeah, I got the money. I don't really care about training him on that. I'll be gone in 90 days.
Yeah, exactly. And then you also need to see that what is the financial motivation of the person, right? Because if the financial motivation of the person is that you don't need to worry about it, just come with me, I will take care of you. Don't you worry about what else is out there. I'm the best for you. You take it with a pinch of salt, right?
But what about the person? I mean, you have these companies that have shareholders, and it's their job to drive revenue in payments. I'm not going to say anything, but I've worked independent now as a small entrepreneur, but I worked for major corporations where that was their end game. Make as much money as we possibly can on those business merchants.
And I tell you, even worse, the head of payment who is making decisions of who to integrate and who to send traffic to is the guy who is getting something on the side. And it is more common than you would think. Right. So I'm going there as a head of payment to the whatever company, and I'm responsible to make the relevant decisions of where I'll be sending the traffic. But I'm going to send you the traffic in case I get something on the side. This is so wrong. I don't know if it's illegal or not, because there is no regulation around that. It's not in a way that, inside the trading for the stock market. But it's something like that, when the purchase manager makes a decision in the favor of who is giving them corruption money on the side. Technically, this is what we are dealing with. But you would be surprised how often this happens. Like, I choose you, but it has to be something here for me as well. So help me to help you. And
I told the merchant to question that. I said, look at how big the company is and imagine, what they have to pay out in dividends. I said, if you work with smaller companies, credit unions, we're an independent company. We don't have to pay out large shareholders, so we don't have to do that. We don't advertise and have a big budget to have to pass those expenses that we're having on to the merchants. So that can happen when you have a big company that needs to pay a lot of people, and then they have to charge, the fees from somebody somewhere has to pay for the lights to be on at a big company, and then the shareholders want to cut.
Listen, there's good and bad for every decision. So there, as I said, there is no good decision which is good for everyone. Otherwise, there would be one bank which is good for everyone, and life is easy and life is good. Well, there are very detailed differences for every case, right?
I think the big banks can work with the big companies, and they can afford that, and they can just give them a good deal. When it comes to small, mid-sized startups, they shouldn't get treated like that, and they do, and that's where I guess we come in. We try to help people. When you're starting out, you don't have one, the leverage to negotiate lower fees like those big corporations. Two, you maybe not have the knowledge, information, or the right team members to tell you all these things. So, and maybe that's why people like us exist, right? So we can help those business owners. Because I'll tell you. I don't know. I'll ask you, where does a business owner find out to get this information?
Obviously, having a payment consultant when you're going to the doctor when something hurts, right? So you seek for the professional advice which benefits you. But it's interesting what you said, that big banks should handle big businesses. I see it differently. I see it so differently, because just because it's a big bank or that bank is serving you for 20 years, it doesn't mean that that's the best decision today.
True.
And I go even further. Just because this bank or this strategy or this payment structure was the best for you in January, it might not mean that it's the best in June, because your company is changing. You've got different volumes. Exactly. You entered on different markets. You have different products. The payment provider has different offering, has innovation, has integrated new channels. Everything is changing. So if you are too lazy to revise your partners on a regular basis, go back to them, start renegotiating the fee, start getting better terms, because now you're different, they are different, you might lose out on a lot of money and risk, or even benefits that could take your operations so much further than you are today. And that's why you need someone who is experienced, because just because you're healthy on a Monday, it doesn't mean that you're going to live forever. That needs constant revision. That needs maintenance. That needs understanding that everything is changing. You are not eating the same food at the age of 20 what you're eating when you're 45. This is your business as well. It evolves. The whole industry is evolving with it. Technical innovations are coming out so quickly. Your responsibility to really understand that how does it affect your business, and take advantage of what's good and avoid what doesn't benefit you anymore. So that's the added value in the payment consultants, in my opinion.
Yes. Well, I was just trying to get you to say something about the book. That's why I was asking, where can they get that information? But
all right.
But yeah, you can also
book as well, of course.
No, yeah, I mean, you heard Victoria's got a book on Amazon called Moving Money. It's very helpful in learning about some of the things we were talking about, and then you can get in touch with us. We have a website, we have a blog, and I try to put up a bunch of this information. You can also listen to these videos as a podcast or as audio. Check out our website for that. But this hopefully can help inspire people to go get the information they need to make better decisions when it comes to that. Because I'll tell you, I hope as the sales guy, the merchants, the consumers that I'm going to give the merchant are better educated about their finances, or becoming more financially literate. So that way, when I talk to them, they know what they're talking about. They're not saying, "Oh, I want a fixed rate for my merchant account." And it's like, I don't know, you want an adjustable or fixed rate for merchant account? Because then we could do that, where it changes every day, it fluctuates on the market, or you just get that fixed one. But yeah, it would be helpful. And I think if that happened, people would make better decisions for their business and, in the future.
Definitely. And that's what I have to highlight as well, that your company is one of the few very unique companies who are actually trying to focus on the needs of the merchant. Obviously, you've got a product, and obviously you have something to sell for them. But with this new department, you can actually be independent enough to take ethical consultancy for your merchants and tell them exactly that what is the market opportunities, what do they need, and of course, if your product can help them, then by all means.
Yeah.
But in the way that you can still give an honest opinion and an honest market understanding. And to be honest with you, I have not seen a lot of company who is investing energy and effort in the education in a way that your company does with this podcast, with having me on the show, and then create something together as a new department for merchant advisory services, as a consultancy. Because what I see that all the academy is a lead generation. Subscribe and then you buy my product, right? So all the education efforts, all the academy, all the information out there which is related to banking and payments, it is pure lead generation. It can give you information, don't take me wrong, but eventually the summary of the whole story is going to be, come to me and I will tell you what's the best for you. And that's why I think there is a need for an independent, unique kind of market intelligence, like we do with this consultancy setup now, because it is not intended to generate all those leads, regardless if the client needs your service or not. Like, this is what you need, I will tell you what you need. And this is unique, and this is ethical, and this is rare in this industry, unfortunately.
Well, thank you, because, and do you want to know where that comes from? I used to be, well, I kind of still am, but when you're a salesperson, there's a drive that you have from your higher ups to sell a lot. So there's a lot of push to do marketing and sales, and there's not a lot of education and training that goes into the client and with that. So when I started this company, I told myself I'm going to take a consultative approach and treat the customers a little differently, do more so how I describe like an ad agency, do a little discovery with them, find out a little bit about them, find out their needs, do a little whatever, more due diligence than there's necessary, like KYC, and find out, the payment size, what's their average transaction size? Do they have any slow months? Are they seasonal? Whatever. Have they had any chargebacks? How do they deal with them when they have them, even if they know? How are their employees trained to know when a customer wants a refund to avoid disrespecting them, so that now that customer goes and issues the chargeback because they could have easily just said, hey, we'll give you the refund for that. That simple things like that. If you educate and train a person, that could avoid a big problem down the road for that business owner. And I just found, being the sales guy when I started my company, I said, I'm going to take that consultative approach, give merchants education and training, even if they don't buy from me. That was going to be my sales and marketing tactic. Is that if I give them enough information, enough free advice, that they made good business decisions that help them, they might come back and say, okay, I trust it, I'm going to buy it from them. Which is a little bit of a, because they end up signing up with someone else and they spend more money anyway. And then I'm like, I don't even know why that was trying to help you. But I hope that my good advice and helping people to see the long-term benefit of not throwing money away right away and putting most of your profit margin away when you're starting out, instead of throwing it away to some high-priced, processor or high-priced fee for your swipes.
That's right.
When you're starting out, that could be expensive. So I encourage a lot of small startups. We give them the type of merchant account that lets them put away more of their profits as or more of their revenues as profit, and not to throw out the window in swipe fees, especially when you're starting out. The first year or two for a startup, that's important, and that could make or break you. That 2 or 3% is going to hit some bottom line, and some investor, some shareholder is going to wonder, where's that money going? Especially if it's more than the average.
Listen, in the long term, everything comes back to what do you represent in business, and what's your end goal. And if money is your end goal, it's not a good end goal. It might be good for a couple of years, but it's not going to take you far. So as long as you do the best that you can, and you try to help your peers, your business network, and you try to give something unique and valuable, the money comes on its own, because
Yeah.
that's, people make business with people, and at the end of the day, that really represents you in the long. Think about it, but we're
Yeah.
going to live until 100, so you're going to work until 80, and it's going to be still a long time, right? So if you are establishing yourself as a solid, independent, reliable, and honest person, regardless what kind of profession you're in, that is going to feed you 30 years down the line. And you might actually make mega bucks today, but if it's not sustainable in a way that you can't really sustain the clients, and because clients are not stupid, they will figure it out eventually that you're overcharging them or you are not giving them the best solution. But once you're honest and you can actually look at yourself in the mirror, and you can say that I give back something valuable, even though it might not come back to me, that's when things start to come back to you. At least this is what I see, and this is what works for me in this industry as well, right? So that's, in my opinion, that's what makes me wake up every morning.
Yeah. I mean, I feel the same way. That's kind of what my contribution is. I believe that, like, when the money is moving, that helps the economy and that helps everybody. If it's like stagnant, it's not making you any money either. So the more it moves, it's better. And if you can help, I feel if I can help business owners move their money easier or get the money from customers easier so they can then spend it, it helps economies, it helps the local community, it helps people have jobs, it helps business owners pay those people to have jobs and then buy their things. So maybe that's, the way I look at it is if I can help business owners do that, it then helps the overall economy. But, that's just my short term look at it.
A
There's
little bit
probably
of a
some
wrap up
longer
at the
term
end.
benefit to it, but hey.
Yeah. But I'm very glad that we had this conversation, and I'm really glad that we started this podcast, because I really feel that that we can generate some good information out there for people who might think that payment and banking is boring. Yes, there might be boring for people who are not that enthusiastic about the subject as us, obviously, but we still try our best of how to communicate those most important parts to help people to avoid the obvious downfalls, and I think that's the value, and this is where I'm glad that we started this this consultancy, this podcast. Obviously my book is available, so whoever needs to have more information on the subject, just
check it
get a
out.
copy and check it out, because these could be very valuable for a lot of people that they don't even know how valuable it could be, this kind of knowledge, and the time is right now, because that not that many people know all of these loopholes and little nuanced details between different banks and different payment providers. So if you and your company starts to optimize for payments and banking today, you can have so much benefit out of it. In the same way as, back in the day when social media marketing was non-existent, whoever started first get far. It's the same. I think it's the time is right, and the time is now to be able to make informative decisions around your money and your assets, and it's not necessarily on investment of how to actually collect, store, and then withdraw all that funds. So make it as a final couple of words, because we are already here for 2 hours, so maybe we can wrap it up. But time flies when you have fun, right?
Well, man, eventually if we get some guests, it can go into 3 hours, because then we can break it up, but we don't have to be talking all the time. But we'll get to that. If you want to be a guest, go visit one of our websites, go to Moving Money Book, or go to merchantadvisoryservices.com, and you can connect with us to be a guest. Or I'll put a link in the video description. If you want to be a guest, you contact us.
And let's have a chat. And our website is coming out as well, the howbanksthink.com. So this should be out very, very soon. You're going to have more information about JP and who is he and what is merchant advisory, obviously with all the relevant links, and about me, Viktoria, as well, and the payment consultancy. So the website is coming up soon.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So that's
a wrap.
I think so. I think this is a great conversation. It's like we could go on, but I think that it was we got 2 hours in there. That's decent. That's a lot. So hopefully everybody enjoyed it. I think it was.
I told you I could talk about this for ages.
Yeah, well,
So
at the
more
last,
to
I'm going to
come.
say if you're not subscribed, you could subscribe so you can get
Yes.
notified when we go live, hopefully. And then I'll put links of, some of the things that we were talking about so you can read those articles for yourself.
Awesome. Thank you very much, JP, and thank you for everyone who watched us and for the future people who are watching us in the future. Thank you, and yeah, hit us with the questions. We are here, and see you the next time.
Well, thanks. Bye.
Bye.
So don't go anywhere just yet. Stay right there. Don't do anything. Just